Amber, how are you doing on this gorgeous summer day?
I'm wonderful. Yeah, it does feel a little bit like summer, amazingly so. I don't think our calendar has necessarily gotten to the official summer yet, but I was recently in the heartland of Canada, and 8 days before I got there, there was half a foot of snow on the ground, and the day I arrived, it was 36 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, yeah. Welcome to Canada, everybody.
And I was just like, and the last time I had been in that particular area of Canada had been in, the middle of winter where it is so cold and so windy and so like, oh God, let's stay inside. And this was, oh God, let's stay inside, but for a different reason.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, it's I enjoy the summer. Do you like the summertime?
I've always liked the summer.
Okay.
I think it's the Italian in me. I've always loved deploying to really hot places
Right?
and never wanted to go anywhere cold. That's
No.
not
What was the hottest place that you were deployed? And what were the temperatures?
probably oddly enough, everyone it was the Gulf of Oman on the other side of the Straits of Hormuz. In
Wow.
the Gulf of Oman, I remember getting to 62 degrees Celsius.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to breathe
And we
in that
we
temperature.
we took some of the parts of the ship, some of the naturally painted black parts, and we put an egg on it
Right.
because we knew it would fry. We
Right.
didn't know how long, and it was like
And you were
in under
timing
3
it.
to 4 minutes. It was like
Wow.
it completely was a cooked egg
Wow.
in a couple of minutes.
Wow. Yeah, that heat is not my favorite.
Yeah, you can't touch the side of the ship
No.
because it's
You
too hot.
You'll burn yourself.
That's
You'd
right.
have burns. Wow.
Yes, yes, and
Wow.
so,
That's a really hot place of the world right now too.
that
And
is
I
it's
don't
hot
mean
all over.
temperature.
That's right. It was, not only did we have 62 degrees Celsius, we also had a sandstorm. So it was interesting to see
Wow.
2 inches of sand all on the exterior of the ship, well,
It's
62 degrees.
wow. Wow.
So,
That's a lot.
yeah, it's a lot. And for our podcast, which is about all sorts of things that you have to deal with,
That's right.
we have to prepare for dealing with 62 degrees
Yeah, we do.
and sandstorms.
Yeah, we do.
And today's topic actually leans quite well
Into
that.
sandstorms?
Well, into how do we navigate our way when the world throws curveballs at us?
Yeah, so this podcast, we were going to focus on the 8th part of the Feisty manifesto. There's 10 altogether. And number 8 is my leadership is not up for dilution.
Mm.
And that sounds like a threat. And I think, in fact, sometimes it certainly has felt like a threat for me. But I like to define it as, it's for me, it's about bringing my whole self to the table. And that means when I am uncomfortable physically, mentally, or emotionally, I also practice that presence at the table. Professionally, I try to, but I'm still human. And that makes a lot of other people very uncomfortable. And that's okay. But I really recognize that I had spent a lot of time in my novice years believing that I had gaps that needed fixing. And instead of me thinking about those gaps as knowledge areas that I could increase, they actually were whole parts of myself that other people didn't like and and they were made to feel uncomfortable by. And that made me think I needed to behave differently. And I am still to this day trying to discover the fine line between the two. But there is a line there because it isn't about showing up as a leader and making everyone in the room happy with you. And I thought that's what it was a lot of the time in leadership. And oftentimes I think we feel broken and in need of fixing as leaders. And I would beg to differ because I've found myself less broken than I have found myself more. I found myself more lost than broken
Okay.
as a leader.
Okay.
And a lot of times that has led me to see other people who I don't maybe have as much respect or, keen interest in. I'm more empathetic to the fact that, oh, actually, that's okay because we're here for who we're here for, and not all of us resonate with everyone. And that doesn't mean we should change or begin to dilute our style to make others comfortable. Um, we need to all come to the table
Mhm.
as leaders. And it's helped me. I was going to say fight, which is automatically an aggressive word to use, but that's what came to my mind. I try to fight the temptation to be competitive, but I realize even in choosing the word fight, you can hear the competitiveness and the competitive nature, because I think sometimes it just feels like we're fighting each other to be the best leader. What is that? I can only be the wisest leader that I know how. And so can my counterparts, my colleagues, yourself, for instance, as opposed to feeling threatened by one another's leadership skills. You have things I don't have, I have things you don't have. We're better if we talk to each other about them. And then you don't dilute your approach, I don't dilute mine to make each other feel comfortable, but we hold space and presence. And, I think I was always nervous to apologize for my behavior. I never wanted to be wrong. So I would work so hard to just create environments that I felt were making others feel comfortable. And a lot of the time, they were just pretending to be comfortable because they couldn't be honest with me. And as a result, then I go down this pathway of thinking I need to fix myself and be different. And certainly, I'm always learning and changing, and I want to evolve in my leadership style. But I don't want that to be about making other people always feel comfortable. I'll tell you what, I have been led by tremendous leaders, and every one of them have made me feel uncomfortable. And that discomfort has been an opportunity for me to grow
Mm.
and learn.
So I'm very curious about something here because I'm hearing two different pieces around leadership as it shows up in the room. One of them I'm going to call the behaviors of leadership. And that's the things we do. I always call the behaviors the things I can see on a video. I can take a picture of it and go, these are the things. And those are teachables. A lot of the behaviors of leadership are teachables.
Okay.
As opposed to the identity of leadership.
Hmm.
The identity of leadership is the how anyone shows up as
Mhm.
leader. Something goes wrong and we move into the space.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, when you say you don't dilute it,
Mm.
is it the identity,
Mhm.
the behavior, or all of it?
So I'll give you an example that might give some answer to that, because I do think it's all of it sometimes. So I was in a group in the last probably year or two, a bunch of professionals supporting one another in their own endeavors. I'll just say that. And the goal of this one session was we were going to jump into some breakout rooms on Zoom and talk to each other, share with each other what we do, and then find opportunities and ways to be both an encouragement, but also to maybe network, connect, whatever. So I jumped into my breakout room and I listened to actually everyone else in the room go first and tell me all the awesome, incredible things they were doing. It was great. It was fantastic. And then it came my turn. And so I just shared that I'm most known in professional circles as the Feisty PM. And one of the people in the room stopped me after I said that and immediately moved into a soft sales pitch to me as a marketer, saying that you'll never be anywhere or be anyone because no one ever wants to be a part of a brand that's feisty. And they proceeded to share with me in that moment how skilled they were at marketing and how much they understood brand strategy, how many hundreds of people they'd helped. And don't worry, I can fix you was basically the message. And I remember in the moment, first of all, taking it very personally, of course, just emotionally thinking to myself, like, it's funny, it wasn't as much how dare you in my mind, as much as I immediately went into imposter syndrome and self-doubt. And I internally began to think about how what they were saying must be right. And I remember feeling in that moment like I had to figure out a way to dilute the brand to the point where it could be more palatable or to erase it altogether. And this is happening in my mind within 20 seconds of this person cutting me off and then in the room, Zoom room, speaking to me as though they were the authority on me and my goals, my purpose, my passion. And I share that with you because I think in that moment, I very quickly went to feeling inadequate and feeling as though I was making a mistake by claiming so boldly that I am feisty and I define feisty and I am proud of being feisty. Yes, I should say it was a man, not that in the moment that was necessarily relevant, although upon reflection, I've had quite a few thoughts back on whether that person also felt empowered to speak to me in that way because of their gender. And I would say this was a cisgendered white man of a certain age and stage. And this was how they thought they would best support me. I had listened to them tell me everything about how awesome they were, and I hadn't interjected, and I hadn't told them what they needed to fix and or how I could help them do better. Anyway, I tell you the example because I think that was a moment in my recent kind of last year or so experience where I felt, "Oh, look at me dilute myself. How
Mm.
fast was I capable and able to do that?" Almost to the extent that I use the word dilution. What I really mean is that feeling of insecurity that we must somehow be palatable to everyone in order to pursue our purpose and our passion. And it's just not true. It's just simply not true. And in that situation, I found myself thinking, how do I continue to empower myself and at the same time support others to recognize that, their voice, the edge that they have in their voice, if we can describe it that way, the clarity of who they are and what they care about and how they share it, that should never be up for dilution to fit somebody else's marketing strategy. And I think that moment probably helped me solidify this point of my manifesto. Um, Feisty isn't mainstream. Feisty is not for the masses. My voice and the way I see life is for those that want to find courage the way that I've had to, that want to live in the truth when it's painful and hurtful and uncomfortable, that want to increase their emotional intelligence because they're desperate to understand why they've had such a negative impact on others and they don't want to do that anymore. And that's who Feisty is for. And so I'm only calling out in my journey of being feisty those that resonates with. And I'm okay for the rest to even have a poor opinion of me. Um, I I have to let that go. I have to let go of the fact that I'm not for everyone in order for me to be my best, wisest, kind of most um, present version of myself. So I guess the answer to your question is, yeah, I think it hits all of those things in my leadership. But in that example, that was a real test, and I came away from that probably owning my feistiness differently from then on, and that was only a year ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm really hearing, there's one word that keeps coming to mind. You're using the word undiluted. Um, I'm really hearing the word authentic.
Hmm.
And feisty isn't a shirt you wear. It's not an act you put on. It's not a mask you wear.
Yeah.
It's who you are.
Mm.
And I come back to the very beginning of Simon Sinek's TED Talk. People don't buy what you make. They buy from you because you believe what they believe.
Mhm.
And that's the authentic, undiluted
Yeah.
leadership.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna waste any of my life convincing people they need me. I have no interest in me. I wanna live in a way that will attract people, who are ready to do similar work that I've had to do. And, you can call that energy, you can call it alignment, you could call it karma, some people might even say. Whatever it is, I just wanna trust in that more than a formula that requires me to shrink. And that was essentially what I felt like that individual, that guy was offering me.
Yeah.
A formula to make, perhaps from his standpoint as a marketer, to make more money, but to dilute my authenticity in order to do it. And to me, that shrinking is too high a cost because I think the price of trying to fit in and make everyone feel more comfortable with my feistiness is I have to lose who I am in order to do it.
Yeah, you have to lose your authenticity.
Mhm.
And again, I really appreciate this because I always come back to the one thing you can't fake in life is authenticity. And it's a hard one to define
Mhm.
because if I said, show me the metrics of authenticity,
Yeah.
they tend to be micrometrics. They're not things that were like, oh, when they did this or that. It tends to be, and I'm going to use the word congruence.
Mm.
What you say, how you live, how you show up, who you show up as in conflict.
Mhm.
When those things are congruent,
Mhm.
you can see it. And you can see that in leadership. You know the leaders that are congruent, and you know the leaders that are incongruent.
Mhm. Well, I think I don't even know if we as humans always see it. I think we feel it first.
Mm,
It's this thing. How many of us have sat in work meetings or been at our, places of employment and just had this sort of ugh
yeah,
feeling, this ick, and maybe we don't even know how to articulate it.
sure.
Or how we often articulate it is we blame someone in the room for it.
Well, not that I want to blame anyone, but I sometimes
Oh,
refer to
let's
that
do that.
as the well, no, I'm going to say it the way I'm going to say it, which is I call it the HR ick.
Yeah.
And I mean that not because I don't think human resources are bad people. Please don't ever hear that. But there's this space between I'm here for the humans and I'm literally defining my humans as a resource. That puts them in the it category as
Mhm.
opposed to the human category.
Mhm.
The very nature of its term dehumanizes to a degree
Mhm.
what it is we're doing. Like I'm here for humans, but I'm here to resource them,
Mhm.
as opposed to I'm here for humans. I want to be part of the leadership followership model
Mhm.
with them.
It just feels so impersonal. And I think actually being a professional for many of us has meant we've had to be impersonal because for some reason professional as it sort of has come to mean in, I would say, a North American context. I won't speak to the whole world, but in a North American business context, professional has meant we have to fit into the expectations of others. And it's a very cult like mentality. And I think there's professionalism. I was recently at a meeting and someone said, well, that's unprofessional. And they were wanting to claim a lack of professionalism against someone else. To which, all I did, because I'm feisty like that, is I positioned it as, well, perhaps someone might consider how you're doing this also to be unprofessional. To which, of course, they were like, well, no, 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 no. I'm being professional because I'm calling out that it's unprofessional. And I'm like, who holds the metric? Where does the rubric live in this situation? And in that situation, you know, a court of law, maybe? To which I'm like, okay, so are you prepared in this situation to die on this hill
Hmm.
of professionalism or unprofessionalism? Is this really worth your time and your talent and your energy? And I just mentored the individual to think of it from that perspective. Because I will tell you, Martin, I mean, fuck, I have been unbelievably frustrated by the behaviors of others so many times in my life. And quite a few of those times I've wanted to take it right to the end. I want a judge to prove that I was right. When in reality, the times that I let it go and I moved on, I've still learned and grown from the experience. And I also haven't wasted my personal energy on situations that are so much about me trying to prove to others that, I don't know, that my feistiness was right. What does that profit me in the long run? It expends my energy in a place that may not be as wise to spend it. It's kind of like me giving the example of this guy who called me out and said, well, if you call yourself feisty, you're never going to be anybody. Nobody ever wants that. Feisty's a bad word. It's, from a marketing standpoint, you're dead in the water. And I'm kind of like, part of me was like, all right, then I'm going to be swimming in a very small pool, but at least it'll be a feisty pool and I will know it and understand it. And I won't have to feel like I have to pretend to be something I'm not in it. Um, that's a power position. That's a leadership choice that you can make. And when we make it, that ick that we feel, it's actually, I think, a call to set better boundaries. If you feel an ick, set a boundary. Blame it on somebody else, go right ahead. You can, but I'll tell you, the satisfaction may never come from that. Finding a way to create new boundaries for yourself and or explore your feelings and your emotions. Why do I feel this way? What did this trigger in me? How am I? All of that becomes power opportunity, real opportunity to integrate, to authentically own your feelings and not to make apologies for who you are. Um, I'm interested in being in the rooms that can handle me not shrinking to fit them. And I want to empower others to do that as well. And for some of us, you know what that means? It means we need to go and find those rooms because many of us aren't in those rooms right now. We're in the rooms where our shrinking violet tendencies are being applauded, where our silence is being leveraged in order to make decisions that may or may not be wise for everyone in the room, but we're not doing anything about it. And so we shrink in those moments or we dilute our emotions to the extent where we feel, well, I'm not empowered to feel because my feelings aren't valued here. Well, have you presented them professionally, to use that word? Because there are ways for us to say, hey, you know what? I hear what you're saying. Here's something that I see, and this is my vantage point, and it does create some discomfort and or makes me question what you're not questioning. It's not about arguing or fighting with a person. It's just giving your perspective. And if that makes people in the room uncomfortable, gosh, like, how are we going to know we're making the right decisions as leaders? Sorry, as I pound on the table. How do we know? How do we know what decisions are wise if we're not hearing from everyone? Even the people, the feisty ones in the room who make us uncomfortable and think differently. I just think it's too big of a cost. And it's something that I practiced a lot. The other version of my feistiness when I was a novice professional was the feistiness just meant I fought. I just fought everything. Um, what that was an immature version of me not understanding what power could come from me just recognizing that, yeah, I do see things a little bit differently than
Mhm,
others. It's
mhm.
not to highlight gaps in others as much as it is to just contribute, my unique vantage point so we can consider it.
So on that space right now about considering a unique vantage point, with a couple minutes left, what can our listeners do to ensure their leadership is never diluted?
I think for me, this has been the big active journey of figuring out my worth apart from my work And that's something that that's a journey I'm on. I've been writing about it for years. If you follow me and you read my newsletter, if you've read, some of the other books that I've been a part of, this is my life's work, to parse apart what it means to understand my intrinsic worth, WORTH, and for my work and the output that I'm a part of to not be defined by it, and vice versa. And I think it's something I'm spending a lot of time and energy thinking about. I have a new book coming out on this. It will be out probably this summer. I have new tools, new teachings, and I'm really doubling down here because I recognize for me the being told, oh, we'll try this and this technique and this technique. All of it can take you only so far. But how do we get authentically to the point where we can walk in a room and enter a space and not hope to be understood by the space because we know the space itself doesn't define who we are? That work, that I feel is the kind of stuff that takes a lifetime to do. And, in the short term, how it feels, honestly, it feels like giving yourself grace.
Mhm.
It feels like counting to 10 before you respond in a moment. I mean, it's all these little bits that most of us talk about as leaders as being just great ways to kind of practice and harness our ego, relegate our energy and think before we speak. So all of that will be helpful. But I think the root of it is, who are we, and who do we know ourselves to be? And if you are finding yourself needing to be defined by your position or who your organization says you are, that's concerning. And I was very tempted to be that and to do that. Or at home, if you consider your identity to be, who you live with or who you've built a life with or what people you've got in your life, whether they're your children or friends, or these are all things that we have. They themselves are not us. And so I think really digging into that worth is part of how this gets, I was going to say solved, although I don't think there's anything that needs to be fixed. I think it's more of a returning to
Mm.
self. And the hard part is, we have to be cautious about, we do need to fit in. There are organizational structures that warrant our, obedience to. Even HR, there are policies we need to follow. So it's not about not being a part of any of those systems. It's about knowing who you are within them. And, when there's an HR policy, you follow it because you recognize you want to respect that policy and how that policy has impact on everyone. That's very different than just, I have to do it or else I'll get fired.
Mm.
So I think there are practical tools, yes, but ultimately this is about finding out who we really are, who you really are, who I am. And, for some reason, I don't know, the word feisty resonated with me very early on, in my chefing years. And it just continues to be this thing that I can resonate with. And it is provocative. And I'm okay with that. And I think we all need to be okay with, once we start to find out who we really are authentically, um, we have to be okay with that, because our authenticity is what makes our presence so remarkable in this time and in this space.
And I want to say thank you today for showing up, for bringing that authentic presence, for not diluting for this conversation.
Yeah, sorry about the extra noises. I was like quite, banging the table, things were
It's all
dropping.
good. It's part of the passion.
I was going to say, I guess that's exactly what it is. It's the feistiness.
It's the feisty. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for today's feisty conversation. And until our next feisty conversation, have a wonderful time.
Thanks, Martin.